Welcome back to the final match of the day here with Grandmasters across all of the regions. It's going to be Justsaiyan up against Zalae, and we're expecting a little bit of a faster game this time around because although the last one went all the way down to game 3 and they were all very long matches, we've got Rogue versus Mech Hunter. Mech Hunter, which we've not seen much of, or any of at all, otherwise in GM this week.
This week, have we seen? Probably not this week.
I didn't catch all of the
right, I missed some of the Asia region, but I don't think it popped up in Europe. Some people have brought it a little bit in the past. I think Silvername we saw it a couple of weeks, but otherwise it's been pretty scarce, yeah. Well,
let's take a look at what we have got coming up today. First up, Justsaiyan with his Burgle Rogue. I always hesitate before I say the name of a rogue deck because...
That's good, because this isn't Burgle Rogue.
It's not Burgle Rogue. There we go. That's why...
No, this is just, people call it Temper Rogue, people call it Water Rogue, whatever you want to
call
it.
Oh, yeah, it's because it's the deck that I've got written down as Shark Rogue. And yesterday I was like,
sure.
Calling it Shark Rogue? No. Either way, you see what it does. It does Shark things, it does Battle Cry things, it does Waggle Pick things.
But yeah, so Saiyan not running stuff like Raiding Party, but he still has the Waggle Picks in there and Deadly Poison. No Captain Greenskin, but definitely a much more aggressive game plan.
It's like Raiding Party Rogue, but no Raiding Party.
Yeah.
So, that kind of thing. Let's take a look at what it's up against. It's going to be Zalae's incredibly aggressive Mech Hunter with, as we were talking about yesterday, one copy of Necromechanic.
Yeah, the Necromechanic I found a lot in practice is difficult to get off in those matchups where you're fighting back and forth for board. And these days, a lot of decks fight back and forth for board. One of the few ones that don't is something like Control Warrior or Tempo Mage. So having the Necromechanic isn't always used to activate the Death Rattles, but even just having like a 4-mana 3/6 is not bad. Like we see people running Water Elementals or Thunderheads. Granted, Thunderheads have you know, some extra oomph to them.
Something that something that Zalae has done a little bit differently to the other players this week is that he only has, in his secondary deck and his tertiary deck, he's only subbed out one card.
It's possibly he thinks these 29 cards are perfect.
Perfect cards.
Yeah, but in those
the only one that's not is Necromechanic.
That would be the card he takes out in the secondary tertiary. I mean, the thing is, with this Mech Hunter, there are so many synergies within themselves that you don't want to take too many of these cards out because stuff like Spider Bomb and Venomizer help clear boards when you're behind. Explodinator helps you go wide. Ursatron helps you get more consistent cards. Menace is sticky and annoying. Like, there's a lot of cards in here that you really don't want to switch out against quite a few decks. And Zalae believes that they're good enough to just keep in there. Okay. Zalae has the only one drop in the deck, and he has both of them.
Both of them. So the question is, does he coin them both out? Because a start as aggressive as that.
It's very interesting because Zalae does not have something like a Galvanizer or a 3-mana card to deal with to like throw on the board. I do like being this aggressive because...
Following up with Fireworks Tech, though, that's another 1/1.
Exactly.
After that, another 1/1 buff and another 1/1 minion.
And when Saiyan isn't running stuff like Fan of Knives, it's a lot of... I mean, it looks like just a 1/1 right now. If that 1/1 hits face 3, 4, 5 times, that's a lot of damage, especially when you keep developing stuff behind it.
Yes. Ideally, Zalae needs to draw a 3-drop to play the following turn. You know, Snip, Snap, Spider Bomb, Ursatron.
He might even step this to try and find something else. He could have it in hand ready in case he finds Miscreant, and that way he can go 0-mana Novice Engineer Miscreant next turn.
I like it. With nothing that helpful in hand at the moment, you know, use the Shadow Steps, draw a card, of course.
There's the Galvanizer. Ooh. I don't think it's going to come down this turn. I think Fireworks Tech is more aggressive.
Well, the only counter argument would be, if he plays it this turn, at least then Replicating Menace can come down on 3. Is that worth it, though?
I don't think he needs to do that. This pushes a bit more damage now. The Galvanizer means that he can make one extra thing cheaper next turn if he draws another mech.
Yep.
And the Replicating Menace coming down on 3 is fine, but it's not that crazy. Menace could be off-put a little bit by like the 1 of Copy of Sap in Saiyan's deck, which could give Saiyan a way to come back. So I think Zalae is just happy playing out the Fireworks Tech now when he is guaranteed to get something off of it.
Saiyan, though, getting those lackeys.
Like we talked about, great play by Saiyan. He didn't have the Miscreant in hand yet, but with the 0-mana Novice that he Shadow Stepped, he was able to activate this.
Yeah, pretty beautiful. Beautifully done.
Can consider now if he wants to Shadow Step either the Novice for more cards or the Miscreant for more lackeys.
The only problem with the Miscreant is that it then still costs 1 mana, which isn't
true.
The end of the world, but he actually holds on to both. I guess he's expecting one of these minions will survive, expecting Zalae will push as much damage as he can to the face. as he has now picked up another mech. So playing the Galvanizer will mean Replicating Menace can come down next turn, and Missile Launcher can come down the turn after. Leroy Jenkins also available on the hand. This game might not go on for too long, though.
That's true. And the fact that Leroy Jenkins is in hand might make Zalae play a little more aggressively. I could definitely see games where Zalae might want to just kill off this Miscreant so he can't, so Saiyan can't Shadow Step it. But with a hand like this, I think Zalae's more than happy to just go upstairs. Now he's considering if he just wants to hit the Novice Engineer. So he's not willing to commit 4 damage into this Miscreant, which I think is very appropriate given the context of his hand.
If Saiyan was to go face, would that be going downstairs?
No, that's the other upstairs.
That's also going upstairs?
Yeah.
Quickly.
What's downstairs?
The basement.
Ah. Obviously.
Yeah.
I feel so foolish.
Okay.
Trade.
Decides to kill off Novice Engineer. This kind of protects the fireworks tech. But, I mean, the Miscreant's still there to punch into it, so I'm not quite sure. I think I might have liked to see that go upstairs.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what... if Saiyan had a bounce or something for the Novice, I mean, it's not that big of a deal if, like, a Shadow Step is used on the Novice. And if Saiyan has a Shadow Step, he's more likely to use on the Miscreant. This can play around Saiyan having multiple Evolve lackeys, and perhaps evolving the Miscreant and the Novice could lead to some...
Okay. Well,
it's fine.
There aren't many spells in Zalae's deck.
True. This doesn't hurt Zalae at all. This is...
Saiyan could just transform.
Yep.
As exciting as that was for about 4 seconds, I'm over it.
The double Goblin Lackeys here actually will give Saiyan a great chance to fight back for the board. Being able to use the Lore Walker Tro and the Evil Miscreant pretty successfully.
Yeah, that's really nice. Zalae, Necro Mechanic with 2 Death Rattles on the...
This is interesting. This might be the... I mean, it looks kind of silly, but spawning 4 1/1s from these Mechroos is actually relevant.
It's better than any other turn.
And Zalae is at a point where it's difficult for him to completely just take over board because this Missile Launcher can't come down until next turn, and by that time, Saiyan's going to try to trade off the Goblin Lackeys to play around it. So this Necro Mechanic could give Zalae a great chance to just fight for the board that he otherwise would have lost.
Yep.
He could just say, forget it, I'm going to Replicate Menace and go upstairs. But I think with a Necro Mechanic draw, it's a real big decision point where Zalae wants to decide if he wants to trade off the Mechroos and get some Joey bots, or throw all caution to the wind and send it. You can see he's conflicted. I don't think this comes up very often where you have a double Mechroo start and you draw the Necro Mechanic to activate it.
It seems like the only play, right? I mean, Replicating Menace, I guess, would allow him to value trade away Local Cho. There are merits to it.
I really like the Necro Mechanic.
But I really like it as well, and he's going to do it. He's going to go ahead and trade away a Lackey and go face, actually, with the...
So this is sort of like an in-between line. The extra 1/1 off the Mechroo might not be worth it to be able to push an extra 2 damage this way.
So Zane can deal with the Necro Mechanic very easily thanks to Wagglepick if he wants to.
He's taking damage though. There's not that much heal in Saiyan's list. He is running Double Life Drinker, but he is not running Zilliax, as many rogue players we've seen are.
True. He is running Shark, but I mean Shark with the Life Drinkers can be a little bit more health.
Yep.
But yeah, there's not that many other ways that Saiyan can find any health gain. I guess transformations into random lifesteal cards, but that's very unlikely.
Okay.
Not actually going to transform the Cho.
4 drops on average are a bit better than 3 drops. Argus is clearly an exception. Okay.
Well,
so this is interesting. Zalae could just send the full War Gear upstairs, or he could play... I should stop saying upstairs. Or he could play Missile Launcher.
It's been a lot of times now, yeah.
Or he could play Missile Launcher, trade one of the Joey bots into the Tro on the left, and then have the Missile Launcher clean that up. For a second, I forgot what Rocket Tro was called.
Replicating Menace has seemed a little bit awkward this whole game, hasn't it? There's just not quite been the turn to play it.
It can be difficult in these very board-centric matchups to play the Menace and have it be just good. But the other options Zalae have had have seemed better, which is why it's kind of stuck around the hand. It can still be used later on. I mean, the thing is, if Zalae does end up finding something like his Explodinators, Saiyan's not super interested in killing those bombs off when he's low, so the Menace could come in handy later. It's just, it definitely is, like you've said, been a bit awkward at least these turns.
He's actually going to go for it, though, and I guess this is to weave in a hero power.
Quite possibly.
Maybe he believes that this creates a board that's more awkward to deal with.
I mean, it is also difficult for Saiyan to deal with a 4-2, which he has to trade into, and then there's still 3 1-1s left over.
Exactly. That's, yeah.
I think I do like this a bit more than the Missile Launcher. The Missile Launcher can still be held on to in case something like a Venomizer pops up, and the Missile Launcher still can be used to push 1 face damage later with the ping.
Zalae is so close to just getting there. If he can just magnetize one more time with the Missile Launcher or the War Gear, it doesn't really matter. Following that up with Leroy would just be lethal most of the time.
Saiyan, I kind of like this. Saiyan, I believe, is either trading the Tro in first. Okay. I was going to say, perhaps he's trying to isolate the Life Drinker to be able to bounce and play it twice.
Okay.
But honestly, bouncing the Argus isn't awful either. Having a 2-mana, give +2, +1/+1, and taunts the side minions are not bad. I like this. This was interesting. This also means that any magnetic won't by itself push damage because any magnetized singular minion here can kill one of these taunts, but then the other 2 microbots have to hit the other one. So the only way this gets punished is by 2 magnetic minions, which is not very likely from Zalae's side.
Now the Missile Launcher looks like it might be used more for its ability to clean up the board a little bit.
Now you might have to.
It's still not great. Like you know, Zalae trades in 2 of the 1/1s. Missile Launcher deals with his very own.
He also doesn't get to weave in a hero power.
No.
He could take it even slower if he wants to, play Framebot hero power, then set up for the Missile Launcher with another hero power. So it really depends how much time he thinks he has against Saiyan's deck.
It's a good question.
He is aware that Life Drinkers exist in Saiyan's list, and he's probably aware that Spirit of the Sharks are there as well. He might not want to give Saiyan enough time to be able to find Shark Life Drinker, because that ends up being quite a bit of healing and swing in terms of life totals. But again, it comes down to how much time he thinks he has based on what he believes Saiyan has in hand, the context of his hand, and the lists.
Here we go. It's going to be Missile Launcher.
I do like the Missile Launcher. I don't think you can take it quite that slowly, though you do have a bit of a lead here.
Only 10 health remaining. He's really close.
Yeah.
But Saiyan has the tools that Saiyan needs in order to deal with this very nicely. See what he gets from the Miscreant. Yep, that looks good. That all looks pretty good.
Just considering how he wants to optimize damage. He is on a clock, and Saiyan does need to close out this game. Zalae is not running Unleash the Hounds in his primary list, so Saiyan can go as wide as he wants.
We could go Faceless Lackey and assume that the 2-drop has more than 1 attack.
This guy's
Rush. I was going to say, the only thing I don't like about this is that this is damage that could have gone to the face. Sure. But at the same time, he's developing a board.
I think he has a bit more time because of that Life Drinker, and he knows that the most damage Zalae can do is Leroy Jenkins' hero power, which is only 8 damage. So if Zalae weaves in a hero power here and tries to set up lethal Leroy, then Saiyan can punish that with the Life Drinker, messing up the math.
And Zalae is definitely running out of time himself. Like, what else can he do? He can slam a War Gear and hero power. It's like, great, Saiyan deals with it easily. It's just a 5/5. And I hate to be saying just a 5/5, but come, you know, turn 8, which is where we're going to be next turn for Saiyan, as a rogue, he usually has plenty of ways to deal with a single minion.
Especially with lackeys in hand. Ethereal Lackey can help with that. Goblin Lackey can help with that. Kobold Lackey can help with that. And Zalae should know that. I'd be surprised to see anything but something plus hero power. There is a chance he could go Framebot Menace and say, you don't have this sap in your deck, and this is going to hit you in the head next turn. But I believe this is the best play. Make something sticky that Saiyan has to trade a lot of damage into, so even if lethal is not set up this way, you don't get the lethal setup the other way as well. So if Saiyan wants to remove any possibility to...
This is so strong.
And this is the one thing I was thinking, is Zalae going to be able to get past this? And the Shark is drawn just in time to get the Life Drinker swing.
Zalae not seeming so
Now,
bad.
this does not set up lethal. There's 3, 6, 8, 9 damage on board for Saiyan. So Zalae does have one more turn. The problem is he's a little bit out of range now.
He's thought about damage. This deck tops out a missile launcher.
Yeah.
Like, there's no like big boom. There's no like Flark Master boom or something. You know, like Zalae's. Once he gets to this point in the game, it's sort of like you've already won or you're not going to win.
I think this has to be an
know?
Ursatron. So the way the board state is Zalae is not getting back board unless he gets exactly second missile launcher plus a Venomizer, and he needs 2 draws for that. Ursatron gives him the 1 extra draw on top of his natural draw. Spider Bomb does not do enough, and this also means he can still play Ursatron Framebot Hero Power, still threatening a Magnetic to push.
What is my purpose?
Zalae correctly identifying what his best odds at winning are.
12 health remaining, but Saiyan can just clean this up nicely. Eviscerate.
That's going to do it.
That'll do it. Saiyan finds the lethal. It got very tight. Like, it did look like Zalae was going to get there.
Very close, yeah.
10 health. But once Saiyan played Spirit of the Shark into the Life Drinker, it was just looking like there was no...
Yeah, we were saying these are good games.
Saiyan takes the first round of the series. And again, I wouldn't necessarily expect this to be how the series goes. You'd think that the aggressive mech hunter would get there in time, but the Rogue is so versatile, especially with the many, many lackeys that Saiyan had available, that he was able to shut Zalae down pretty nicely.
Rogue can do a lot of stuff. It can build a wide board, it can build a tall board, it can do a lot of damage, it can heal a bit now with Life Drink and Spur the Shark as well. It is, like you said, very versatile in what it can do. Even with such a powerful opening from Zalae with exactly double mech crew, you don't see those openings very often. Saiyan was able to combat that. The Miscreants came in handy. The lackeys did a lot of stuff. Without cards like Unleash the Hounds, it's hard to punish the Rogue for being able to do everything it can. Which kind of makes me wonder if, Zalae is switching to a side list with, say, Unleash the Hounds. Would it not have been more useful to have like maybe an extra copy of Unleash the Hounds to make it more consistent? When you have just one card you're switching out in a 30-card deck, it's not that often you're going to have exactly that one card show up in the matchup.
Well, I've just been informed that both players are actually staying with the same deck, which I guess isn't too surprising, as Justsaiyan doesn't really have a more defensive build of his Rogue. Betrayal, Fairy Dragons, they're not really for this matchup. And Zalae, again, it's just a case of removing Necromechanic for Deadly Shot or Unleash the Hounds, and actually, Necromechanic was fine in the last game.
Yep.
It was one of the most powerful cards he played.
It was nice, yeah. I think Unleash the Hounds might be there just in case there's something like a Token Druid popping around.
So, Saiyan, opening hand, coin, backstab, backstab, Edwin. That's an opening hand.
Yeah. There are no deadly shots in Zalae's list, but there are 2 Spider Bombs and a Venomizer.
Yep.
So going for Edwin's can be risky, to say the least, but they can pay off because it can end the game quickly before Hunter finds, you know, A, enough tools to kill you, or B, enough tools to be able to deal with those cards. Zalae going for the full 3 keep. With just the 2 macros, with just one drop that you can find in your deck, having a 2-3-4 is usually just good enough, and you don't want to try to mess that curve up.
2-3-4 seems very good, actually, and the fact that he can actually play this Framebot, it can't be dealt with, and then that can be upgraded and given poison.
Yep.
Saiyan's backstab Edwin play isn't going to deal with that, so it's looking good. He's going to go ahead and actually
Still going to be good enough.
Play the Edwin right now as a 6-6, but it's not going to be good enough. That's the thing. Well, good enough for Saiyan to play it.
Enough for Saiyan to play it.
Good enough for it to actually impact this game? Not really. This Venomizer shuts it down immediately.
Well, we'll see if Zalae plays it, but I do believe that is going to be the case, yeah. And yeah,
do you think Ursatron is worth considering for any reason?
No, not even.
Okay.
Saiyan on turn 3 can play exactly only Henge Clan Thug, which would be annoying for Zalae, but I don't think it's worth foregoing the clear on this Edwin. Right. For example, if Saiyan is running Eviscerates, if Saiyan were to clear this board, suddenly you can't deal with that Edwin anymore. And even though you have the Ursatron, it's not enough. Fortunately for Zalae, there is no Henge Clan Thug on Saiyan's side, but Saiyan does have an SI7 agent, which I'd gather is coming down this turn.
I mean, it's a 3-mana 3/3. Okay, fine. No, he's actually going to dagger up, which is...
Does he hold it deadly? I believe he's going to hold it deadly.
Well, it's really interesting when you consider the Waggle Pick available next turn. Like, dagger up, hold the dagger.
The thing with Waggle Pick is it's hard to use against Mech Hunter because you don't want to be swinging a 4-attack weapon into a 1/1, and then if you go face, well...
So,
you get hit.
do you think he's holding on to this so he can Deadly Poison and SI7 agents?
I think that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
Plays around, what do you call it? The Explodinator.
Yep.
I know cards by what their voice line is, and sometimes the name escapes me.
They do have a great voice line.
They really do.
I've always particularly liked the mech's voice lines. I just think they're ever since, you know, Annoyatron's very first hello, hello.
Oh,
hello,
yeah.
I was in love. It got a little bit annoying after that, but originally amazing.
Okay. No need to throw down the SI this turn. Developing the Hench Clan Thung is probably what Zane wants to do.
Yes, that Explodinator. Nothing's looking outstanding.
It's going to have to be an Explodinator. Framebot doesn't let you do anything else this turn. You could go Bomb Toss Fireworks Tech, but it's just yucky. And this puts the most amount of stuff on board, which will hopefully allow Zalae to magnetize something.
We've seen quite a bit of Rogue today, but we haven't seen a successful High Sparrow Togwaggle played, I think, once all day.
I do believe most of those lists were not running High Sparrow at all.
The Poker Hopper certainly wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
Firebat against the Poker Hopper didn't get to play his.
This guy's toast.
Poker Hopper didn't have it. Firebat did have High Sparrow, but it didn't show up.
Yeah, I think he drew it once maybe, but he definitely didn't play it.
Bloody Face isn't running it because he wants to be much more aggressive.
Okay. But without any lackeys, Saiyan isn't going to get to play his either, though...
It could come down as a 6-mana 5/5.
It could do, and it's not looking like Saiyan needs much more than that. He has control of the board with quite a hefty few minions.
Against a deck like Rogue that doesn't run board clears, Zalae recognizes that popping this Replicating Menace with the Fireworks tech is exactly what he wants to continue fighting for board. And when you get put into the situation like this, from like on Saiyan's side, how does he deal with all this? He can't punch 10, 11 plus damage into all these things, right?
Right.
This Hench Clan, this SI7 agent, maybe he can swing his dagger into one of these mechs, but it's so difficult to actually want to... You can't sink that much damage into it. So at some point, Saiyan has to say, okay, I have to race you because I can't kill every single thing you play.
It seems like a reasonable sequence, doesn't it? Togwaggle this turn, Waggle pick next turn, Leroy, and then bounce it the following
gives
turn.
Saiyan a way to win. And the thing is, Zalae still has to clear stuff. He can't do quite the same thing as Saiyan because I think Saiyan's going to win this race if nothing crazy happens from both players' sides. So Zalae will have to likely trade to one of these things.
Okay, that's a lot more 1/1s coming out potentially, but Zalae's very first goal is going to be clearing away this Hench Clan and then the Togwaggle.
Yeah, Saiyan found a very aggressive line here. Which is funny because it's playing a 6-mana 5/5, but building on what he's set on the board already. Zalae will probably try to find some way to deal with this without using the missile launcher. The missile launcher kind of hits his own stuff too.
So with double bomb toss and fireworks tech, he can buff up the replicating menace, trade that into the High Sparrow, and double bomb toss and trade the rest of the minions into the...
He can clear quite a bit here.
Clan Thug. The question is, can he find a better line that also allows him to deal with the SI7 agent?
Carefully managing his board size, not to waste any 1/1s.
This is very similar to what I just said.
Oh, the thing is, his board will still be full because of the...
yeah.
There's just way too many microbots happening.
But with the double bomb toss, he will be able to deal with the High Sparrow. I still don't think he can deal with the SI7 agent.
He's deciding... Nah, that's fine. He can't deal with everything. He's deciding if he wants to...
Oh, maybe deal with
if he wants the Goblin Bombs on the board or if he wants the 1/1s on the board.
Yeah.
And he chose the 1/1s, which I believe is correct. You want more board right now. The Goblin Bombs don't do that much. You don't have that many magnetic minions left in hand, and you need to actually hit what your opponent plays.
Now again, Waggle Pick into the face this turn, and then Leroy plus the bounce on the Waggle Pick. It's looking like it's going to be lethal as long as Zalae doesn't get there first.
What would be really interesting here is if Saiyan had something like an Eviscerate, because he could go Waggle Pick, face, and Evis his own SI7 agent, effectively win the game, because Zalae would not be able to play something like a Ziliax. Unfortunately, he's not given that option, so Saiyan has to just go face. Oh, I like this a lot. This sets up for exactly Leroy SI7 agent. I forgot he could just dagger up. And this means that Ziliax is not an out for Zalae. And that's just it. Zalae's locked out of the game.
Yep.
not that he had much of a choice to, he had to clean up as much of the board as possible because he was just getting raced down. But Zalae finding a very, very aggressive line and just, it just works.
It's really unique, this. Obviously, winning by locking down the board, preventing any magnetizing happening, and now, Leeway Jenkins plus the dagger plus the SI7.
Beautiful play. This was this was exceptional.
And I think only for the second time today we have a sweep, as Justsaiyan does take a series. We weren't sure. We thought maybe the Mech Hunter would be able to get there, but Zalae finds the lines. He gets the aggression himself, takes this one down. Barely even breaking a sweat, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he did have an early Edwin. He invested resources in that. Zalae was able to deal with it, but then it was hard for Zalae to get back onto the board after Zalae developed the Henge Clan Thug, the SI7 agent, and then eventually the Heist Baron Togwaggle. Zalae was able to find the opportunity to push the minion damage to a point where he knew he couldn't fight for board and kill everything, so he just said, okay, I take the aggressive line here, I have the Leroy, I can end the game, and then correctly identifying the one way he could lose, which is Ziliax, and bouncing the SI7 because of that. It was beautiful.
Well, we're going to get the chance to ask Justsaiyan a couple of questions right now. Zalae, congratulations. I'd like to know straight away, were you expecting to be playing against Mech Hunter this week? Because we haven't seen that much at all in Grandmasters.
It's definitely a deck that's had kind of a poor record, considering Silvername brought it, and I don't think he managed to pick up a win with the 2 weeks he brought it, right? I did see Zalae playing it on ladder, though, so, you know, potentially. I did run into him a few times, and he was playing some Mech Hunter, but, you know, that's probably the double bluff, right? I don't know. I definitely didn't expect it. But.
It's the second time we've had that exact double
Frozen
bluff
said
today.
a similar thing. Yeah, he saw someone else playing it, and he was like, there's no way they're bringing that, and they brought it.
Yeah, but when you did see that that's what Zalae had brought, what were your thoughts with what you'd brought? Did you think that you had the advantage?
The matchup snowballs a lot, right? Like the rogue on coin tends to win, and off coin, proccing miscreant is like your first priority. So I was basically like, my hand was dead game one, but I was basically just praying that I draw the miscreant, right? And I had to step the novices, and it ended up working out. You can't fight them tall because all their minions are pretty small and they chip damage in. But if you get miscreants and you fight the same kind of board control-y wide game, then the games tend to pan out for Rogue favorite, I guess. You just run them out of steam.
Were you bringing Rogue this week because you expected your opponents to bring something, or perhaps was that influenced at all by the Masters Las Vegas last weekend, or did you just think Rogue was an overall good deck to bring?
Yeah. Everybody knows I'm going to bring Mage, right? So I chose to bring Rogue and Hedge because I just don't like playing Warrior overall. And Rogue is pretty strong. Feels like you can do what you want with it most of the time. And it had good matchups. I mean, Zalae definitely brought like the one deck that was kind of bad for Rogue, I guess.
Yeah. We weren't sure when we came in. We thought maybe he'd be able to knock you down very quickly, especially given how easily he was able to deal with the Edwin in that last game. But no, congratulations. Justsaiyan, we'll be seeing you again later this week. Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, there you go. I mean, like Justsaiyan said, poor results when we've seen it from Silvername, etc. I know that I've seen a lot of people online saying Mech Hunter
might not be the bring. It has some definitely strong polarized matchups, but it's not. Even against those, we like Zane was saying, it's struggled to find those ones in Grandmasters, and perhaps when you're playing this sort of deck against very high-level players, it might be easier to play around things, or they're much more aware of how to kind of dance around what they can do.
Shall we take a little look at what happened today? For those of you that just joined us recently, we kicked off the day with PNC getting a nice little reverse sweep with his secondary deck against Bloody Face with the Cyclone Mage versus the very aggressive Raiding Party Rogue. Frozen won with Pogo Hopper against Firebat's Burgle Rogue, although it wasn't really the Pogo Hoppers that caused the victory. They did their bit.
It was a Rogue Mirror.
Yeah, it was a Rogue Mirror. Then Eddie very convincingly beat Strive Pro with a 2-0 with the OTK Paladin, with all of the heals being so defensive and yet so powerful.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I really like to see OTK Paladin, and like we mentioned, he had some very favorable matchups this week, and hopefully we'll see more of that tomorrow.
Amnesiac took down Muzzy with that very grindy Warrior versus Mage match in which the secondary deck, or the tertiary deck rather, was just too powerful with the counter play for Muzzy to deal with. And finally, Justsaiyan take down Zalae very quickly indeed with 2-0 victory with the Rogue versus the Hunter. These are the standings now, though. Frozen and Eddie tied for first in Division A, 7-2 scores. They're looking more and more safe for playoffs as we go.
Yeah, when you're playing, I think, 14 games in total, once you get a 2-win advantage or something like that, like Frozen said, you can kind of just try to go 1-1 and eke your way above the rest of the crowd. You don't have to fly above like Fino's 9-0 so far.
Right. Well, the vast majority of what we saw today was Division A. Yep. Let's take a look at what we've got coming up tomorrow in America's GM. We've got Strife Grow up against PNC first, Muzzy versus Eddie, Nagudan versus Dog, Monsanto versus Purple, and then finishing the day, we've got ETC up against Raze. Any game that you're particularly excited for tomorrow?
I'm excited to see the OTK Paladins. It's been a deck I've favored quite a bit in the past when people were running it with Lightbringer before that rotated out, and it's, I don't know, it just feels like good to see it come back and be powerful and strong. It's also nice that we've been seeing quite a spread of matchups across the board today, and it looks like what we have for tomorrow as well. There's a couple of Rogue mirrors, but other than that, we have quite a variety of matchups, and it's nice to see something refreshing instead of 7 Warrior mirrors.
Well, that is us finished for the first day of Week 5 of Hearthstone Grandmasters, but don't worry, because Derek Brown, Hunter Ace, Lorinda, Gallon, Language Hacker, and myself will all be back tomorrow for Day 2 of Week 5 Grandmasters. We will see you then.